So I wanted to ask you, there's a woman like on Facebook, right? I don't remember me being friends with her, but I am friends with her, and I've been seeing her post. And I was just having like this, just trying to understand how this works. I'm just going to look and tell you like the kind of stuff. So what I want to ask overall is that I know that each of us is doing the work for the collective and for ourselves, right?
Yes.
Okay. So just giving you an example. So today she said, I'm opening prosperity for all people on earth, instantly prosperity creation to create the new earth communities. Christ consciousness is here to anchor and settle down everywhere on earth. And then she does like some like codes. And I actually looked at him today, and this one did something to me, and I started, like, my light language started going off. Okay?
Okay.
And then, but this is, okay, here's another one. By the grace of Buddha, I integrate the new earth codes of freedom. Another one, I deleted the Corona worldwide program. The Corona codes are integrated and activated in every consciousness. We can let go now. It's done. So I'm just curious, like, not sure what I'm really asking, but like, how, like, I guess I'm curious about like, well, how many of us actually need to do that work for something like that to be done? Like, I mean, do you see what I'm saying?
First of all, we have to talk about the intention of consciousness. When someone feels driven to do something, like those light codes and the thing you just showed me there with the animation, or you with healing the rivers or bringing them together, or whatever it is you said, you just feel that you need to do that, or it just happens for you. You know, you just do it.
Or
right?
we're told, okay, do this. Okay, next. I mean, I guess it's our higher God self saying that,
right?
And inspiring that action.
So, as we are fragments of consciousness here embodied in a body, we're setting our intentions, and we all have different missions. Some of us don't have any missions at all, but you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So where one person would say, I am releasing and realigning the coronavirus, it's now inert and immutable, and they send this energy out there into the web, it's a positive effect. And they're being called to do that. By the same token, you know, I don't feel called to do that. I feel called to write books and share information and, you know, this mechanical scientific stuff. You feel called to work on the oceans and all. And together we create this army of light that all have separate tasks. You know, people in the military specialize in things. And you may be specializing in water because you have a lineage back in past lifetimes where you have worked with water a lot. Yes. So you may not consciously know what you're doing, but you know exactly what to do, and you're here to do it.
Yes.
And there's some level of that that's going to occur beyond your awareness because you just don't need to know. You know, probably right. A lot happens in sleep time, or you just, you know, like you feel the call. I have to move down by the ocean now. And I have to be at the water line all the time, and we're going to work on the water. These other people have their own specialties, the light codes and the animations and that sort of thing. I think as a human, we tend to sit inside ourselves and look out and go at someone else and see something they're doing and go, well, why can't I do that? Or how come I'm not doing that? Or maybe I should be doing that. Where in the divine plan, you're doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing in your own little piece of it. And we're all little cogs on this wheel that make the entire earth turn in the right direction a little bit at a time as we right. keep doing what we're supposed to be doing.
Right. Oh, no, actually, and I totally feel that. And I think when I first started and began getting messages about, oh, I need you to go to Egypt, you know, in 7 days. And I'd be like, huh? And, you know, I didn't quite get it, but after a while, I started really understanding. And then the next level was, oh, I actually know, I understand that I'm dropping codes and I'm carrying something in my DNA that is needed right now in this space. Or like, you know, I start understanding it from a different perspective. And now, like when I'm out in the water now and I'm doing any work, I can feel beings all around me. You know, like I can feel what's happening in a different way than I ever was before. So I think really my question, when I read her stuff, I read it and felt the truth of what she was saying. But maybe my human mind wanted to be like, did she really delete the whole thing for all of us? Or do you know what I'm saying? Like I was just trying to question what doesn't need to be questioned, but
Yeah. Well, as far as that virus thing goes, I don't have an answer on that one. I've looked in that direction. I've tried to see what the answer is. I have some internal knowings, but I don't want to say those publicly. So we'll just move on from that. I would say that if she has the capability, if she has the energy within her consciousness and the team supporting her, yeah, she probably could do that for the whole planet. Currently, the statistics and what's going on out there, if they are to believe, are showing something different than that. But, you know, maybe there's, you know, this inertial effect where the wheel has to come up to speed before everything's... Sure. Maybe that's the case. I don't know. Sure. I don't know. But, yeah, I would say it's definitely possible.
Right. And I guess it's funny because as I'm asking these questions, the answer really is, what do I feel when I read it? You know, what is the heart resonance when I read that message? And when I read it, I was like, wow, this is amazing. Yes, this feels resonant.
Well, you know, a lot of that's going to have to do with your soul paths. I'm trying to use generic language here. Of your consciousnesses, you too may have had incarnations on the same planet somewhere or close proximity to each other, and you're feeling that energy in her transmissions. I would suggest you reach out to her and see. I suspect you'll find a lot of commonalities between you two.
Right.
Just because of that, you know, you say this really connected with me, and I'd like to engage in a conversation and maybe understand a little more. I felt something, and I mean, the same thing happened when you and I got together that first time out there in Mount Shasta. I mean, there's something there. There's a connection, and it's why it still continues.
Right.
So you never know. I mean, that may be a call to action that you should reach out and get in touch with that person.
Right. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. So are you feeling anything about the upcoming eclipse and solstice?
You know, other people ask me about the planetary movements, and I don't follow them. From my perspective, when I pull back, and it sounds a little odd, but when I pull back, when I'm in session and I'm looking, I see the rotations of the planets, and there is some energetic alignments that occur, but my connection seems to downplay that. It doesn't really pay a lot of attention to the movements of the planets and everything. It'll acknowledge, and I think I've had a session or two where I say they're aligned up, and there is a benefit, an energetic benefit that allows an opening for energy to hit the planet, but it's not what people think it is. So, you know, that's the best information I can get. Is it true? I don't know, but it's what I get from my side. But I know a lot of people. I've had several people ask me about the eclipse and the this and the that, and I think that maybe they are like in a military action. You'd set your watch. Everybody set their watch for 12 o'clock, and then at 6 o'clock, the plan happens. Maybe the planets are like the cosmic watch. You know, okay, when this eclipse happens, everybody go. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, and that would probably make it a lot more important than just the planets lining up and some energetic potentials. Everybody has to set their intention and focus on using the energy that's there and being provided.
So for me, I get a lot of my information in shamanic journeys. And so yesterday when I did a journey, I felt an alignment happen from inner earth through, you know, the sun, Solaris, through great central sun. Like I felt some alignment and I felt that it hadn't happened in a very, very long time. And what I could feel was that all of this indigenous wisdom was going to come back through, or like an opening was being made for that indigenous wisdom to come through, to be used as the foundation to create like this new, I mean, if we want to say new earth, or this new creation that all of us are creating right now. So I saw that happen, and then I felt it happen in my body. And literally then today, I felt, when I did the journey today, I actually went to this crystal that I go to inside of the earth. And I just felt like all the elders like around me. And I felt, yeah, like this wisdom is, there's some opening or some like portal or alignment that is allowing something that hasn't necessarily been present for a very long time to come back, but to come back to be used as like a springboard for the new.
So how does that manifest? If this information becomes available, how will we recognize it and reach out and utilize it? You know, I want to use it. I'm sure a lot of other people do too. How do we utilize this information?
So I think by people sharing it. So for me, yesterday I was watching the sunset in Sarasota. So I was out at the beach, and literally I had my drum, because I was actually taking some pictures, and I had my drum and I was drumming and just kind of tuning in. And I wasn't doing it for anyone else, but I felt all the wisdom coming regarding greeting and saying, I don't want to say goodbye, but giving thanks and gratitude to the sun every single day. And I started getting a message about the importance of the light and the connection to the sun. And I was told specifically it wasn't about worshiping the sun, but really honoring the sun. And so I think that wisdom is going to, I mean, perhaps there's certain ones of us that are here to bring forth some of that wisdom. I mean, I certainly think that is one of my key roles here.
Well, you said you were starting to write a book.
Yeah.
Is that wisdom going to be in that book?
Sure.
Well, then, yeah, there you go. You just need to keep writing.
Yeah.
I would focus when you feel these things. You get a certain feel, an energetic feeling in your mind when they occur.
Yes.
That's so that you can go back there in meditation. I would go back there in meditation and see what's available. What can I bring forward? What, you know, I am the tool. How would you use me to write this and transmit this data?
Right.
I'm sure a lot of people would be interested in reading it and hearing about it.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's on my list.
Is it? Well, because, you know, there's been thousands of years of suppression where this information was purposely hidden and kept from us so that we would be the way we are right now, you know, easily manipulated, easily told what to do, and we follow programs and that sort of thing without looking inward to our own compass, you know, to guide us and steer us. And I think that the more people that bring forward the information that take us back to that inner compass, the sooner we'll stop seeing all the stuff we don't want to see that's out there right now, that, you know, the mess that we're going through.
Right. I agree. Absolutely. Interesting. So yeah, in that vein, I just want to say that, of course, there's a reason that all of our ancestors and all of the indigenous peoples on the planet really paid special attention to the eclipses and the solstices and the alignments.
You're right. You're right.
Yeah.
Well, you know, that, and they didn't have television or any other distraction. So, you know, that was their entertainment, right? Hey, look, this thing is going to happen where the one goes over the other and it looks really cool. And, you know, it's like fireworks. We're all going to stay up and look at the sky tonight. Yeah. Or during the day, right? Yeah. 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 But yes, there is a lot of information about the energy that came through on these alignments and that sort of thing. And that's not to be taken lightly, because they had a lot of information that was coming through. just because I don't have a lot of information on it doesn't mean anything. It just means that I just don't have it.
Right.
But there are a lot of people and a lot of cultures that placed an emphasis on the energy of these things that came through. And that's not to be discounted.
Right. Absolutely.
For sure. So when we started this meeting, you started talking about DNA. And I think the last time we talked, we had a conversation about it a little bit. We should probably revisit that. I get the feeling that we should talk about that a little bit. I don't even know where to go with it, so I'll just let you lead that because you're probably more versed in it than I am.
Well, funny you should say that because I don't know that I would say that I understand the technical aspects of it and what is actually happening to our DNA. I know with one regard, we are deactivating some DNA and then activating others. So one of the very interesting things that I guess I've been trying to understand. So how does the DNA relate to like the codes that we carry? So for instance, if I've had all these lifetimes with indigenous peoples upon the planet and I've lived in certain star systems, how does that impact my DNA so that when I come here and I'm called to go to certain places and drop codes or work with the land, how does my DNA work with that whole understanding?
Well, the first thing that I want to touch on is that the DNA that's in your body right now is not an accident. You have a lineage of DNA in your body that goes back somewhere that you wanted. You chose the body that you're in. You're of a high enough consciousness that you have the ability to choose the body you want to be in.
Yes.
I know that because I've done the same thing. I've got my lineage. I know where it goes back. I don't need Ancestry 23andMe or whatever it is to tell me that because I can feel it.
Right.
Okay, so you have this baseline DNA that you have come into this planet with, this lineage that you can work with. I'm going to use some terms from my book and some information from the second book to have this discussion, but our consciousness is a rotating sphere of energy, this round sphere with a tube that goes down the center that and the energy flows through that. And we're continually connecting, collecting, and discharging energy through this sphere. The same way we eat food and we process it and then release the waste. The same thing we do with energy all day long, 24 hours a day, when we're asleep or when we're not asleep.
Right.
This tube that runs down the center of our column is aligned with the chakra system that is so well known from the ancients. And there's 7 chakras, and there's more if you want to break it down, but there's 7 main chakras that are on this system. This chakra system is the translation between the energy of your consciousness and the energy in your body. So the energy from your consciousness runs down this tube, runs through these chakras. These chakras are like energy points where the energy then goes into your neural network. So we're a big bag of bones and skin and flesh, but what allows us to feel and sense is our neural pathways that are encased around that. Everything else is just a support system to get us to move and do things.
Right.
That energy system is what, through the consciousness into the chakra system, into your neural network, that is the energy that your DNA is using to create your body. Okay. With, ancestral DNA and heritage and all of that, we look like our parents a little bit here and there, and there's some features and all of that, but mostly we're our own people. And we're using our energy of our consciousness to manipulate the DNA. And there's other people out there that talk about this, but it's in my second book too, that the DNA has an antenna in it. It has an energetic receptor in it. That antenna is picking up the energy of your consciousness. This is part of your energetic template that's going down your chakra system, the perfected body that you expect to have in this lifetime, the face you expect to see when you look in the mirror, because you don't want to look in the mirror and see somebody you don't recognize. I mean, I'm getting older, so I kind of do that now. I'm like, who is that guy? But I mean, we are comfortable in a body, and as we go through these lifetimes, we have an expectation of what we want to be there. Our energy template is transmitted through that tube in our consciousness, through the chakra system, into our neural network, and our DNA picks up on that. Okay. We are, all of this talk about the energy bombarding the planet, and we're raising our vibration and frequency, and all those are defined in my book, but all of this energy is increasing the energy in our consciousness sphere. That means that there's more energy in this tube. That means there's more energy going through our chakra system. It means that there's energy moving into our neural network, and our DNA is picking up on that. And these are the changes that are starting to happen. And, you know, a doctor that's working on you and operating is still going to see a human being because the changes are subtle. These things are more energetic, and they happen slowly. Again, like the inertia wheel has to come up to speed. Eventually, we're going to start changing as a species, as a human being is going to adapt and change, and we'll slowly see those changes, but that's over time. Evolution takes time unless it's forced upon itself rapidly, you know, survive or die. But these are the energetic changes that are occurring that everybody's speaking to, about some DNA being turned off and some DNA being turned on. This has all got to do with how much energy is in your consciousness and how much work you are putting into meditation and pulling in that energy and using that energy to change yourself. Because intention, as we just spoke about with the people that are doing different work on the planet, intention is everything. If you're not pulling that energy in and using it and focusing on being better, being more, being whatever comes next, you may miss it. You know, it's not there is some autonomous action that's going to happen beyond you, like your autonomic nervous system. You know, some things are just going to happen that you're not paying attention to. You know, your heart's going to beat no matter what you do, right? And well, you can stop it, but I mean, you don't have to think about your heart beating, it just beats.
Right.
And some of these changes are going to be autonomous like that. They're just going to occur without any outside influence. But for the most part, conscious intention is pushing the changes. And the people that are at the forefront of enlightenment, in the forefront of talking about ascension and shifting and change, these are the people that are using this energy, that are shifting their awareness and shifting their bodies and moving into what comes next.
Right, right. So when we bring in these different aspects of ourselves, so say, for instance, we bring in our Venusian self or our Arcturian self. So when we connect to those aspects of ourselves, are we also activating the DNA from those aspects, or are those aspects bringing in more consciousness? Like, how does that work?
I haven't really focused too much on that. I mean, if we had an Arcturian or an Andromedan or a Sirian or a Pleiadian to look at and compare, we'd be able to say, okay, there's distinct differences in their physiology than the human body. And in that case, you would say, okay, there's some similarities, but there's also distinct differences. And to say, am I integrating one into the other? I don't have that information, but that's a big leap to take to say, you know, my Andromedan self or my Arcturian self is, because the Arcturians are little tiny people, that they're becoming me and I'm becoming them. I think consciously, I can connect to other aspects of myself that aren't here. And in that, first of all, they're like, man, this place is nuts. But once we get past all of that, there's more of an understanding and awareness where you stop taking things so serious, on my part of it anyway, because you can see so many other levels of so many different things that what's so important to us here on Earth just kind of isn't anymore. So in a mental conscious capacity, I feel that shift.
Yes.
Physically, knowing some of my other aspects and what they look like, I personally don't feel that, you know, there's been any DNA shifts or any kind of physiological shifts with my body based upon my awareness of them. Because what we're talking about here is we're talking about our veil of forgetfulness, that energetic barrier that keeps us as humans not thinking there's anything other, you know, in separation.
Right.
As the energy of your consciousness continues to grow and elevate, that veil can't hold you anymore.
Right.
And that's why a lot of people are talking about other aspects and feeling other aspects of themselves, because we're pushing beyond the veil. At this point, it's no longer necessary. We've reached the end of its usefulness, and we're in the process of dissolving it slowly. Now, if you aren't ready to realize that you're a green bug or an octopus in the water that's sentient, you probably won't know that, because, you know, nothing's here to shock you. You would probably have a dream like that.
Right.
And you would wake up from the dream and you would either go, that was really relevant, or you would go, that was the craziest thing ever, and completely forget about it. So I would say, as the veil thins for more and more people, they are going to become aware of what past lives that they've had. They'll start bleeding in. They're going to seek regression sessions, because they're going to want answers. This is exactly what happened to me, and a lot of my clients come to me the same way. They want answers. What are these dreams? What is all of that? Yep. And they'll start to engage with other aspects of themselves that are on different planets. And all of this sounds really crazy to somebody that's still asleep, but this is the fact of what's happening. As the veil that keeps you isolated and separated begins to thin, and you start expanding outward, what you become aware of is as much as you can handle at any given moment. So if you're not freaking out at the crazy revelations that are coming at you, just open up and just say, bring it at me. I can take it all. You might be surprised at what happens.
Right. So one thing I guess I was thinking about is, I don't remember exactly who it was, but I think actually Judy Satori wrote a book, Sunshine Before Dawn. And I haven't read the entire thing, but I don't want to misquote either. But I know that she says that a group came together, and there were some Syrians, some Lyrans, and some other, I think, Andromedans and a few others that came together to actually create a human. And each gave different aspects or DNA. And so at one point in time in the shamanic journey, I felt that our human template is unlike any other in the galaxy, right? And that because we had those different aspects that came together, that almost like what we are capable of doing or experiencing hasn't necessarily been tested yet or seen yet on other, I guess, planes of existence. So do you understand what I'm kind of asking?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah. So what's the question? Are we special?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I mean, and I've heard about, the living library, the DNA, the living library here on Earth that was so sought after, right? Because of the different beings that came together to contribute to our makeup.
Okay. I understand that we're just talking here. I'm not talking in absolutes. I'm just talking in my perspective of things. And if anybody that's listening doesn't like my perspective, they just ignore it. That's fine.
Right.
I'm okay with that.
Just chatting.
As we exist right now at the precipice of third density into fourth density, we are a vehicle. The human body is just a vehicle of consciousness. And at some point, we aren't going to need vehicles of consciousness anymore at all. We'll have achieved fifth density, and the bodies will still be here, but we won't be in them because we will have moved beyond the need for them, unless we want to come back and play. As the human body is a tool, and it's a vehicle that shifts with the consciousness. And now we just talked about the energy of consciousness moving through the chakras into the DNA and changing the body. Okay,
right.
This vehicle of consciousness is meant to move with us into the next density, the fourth density. Some people call it 5D, or it doesn't matter, but it's the shift into whatever comes next.
Right.
Okay, so however you want to define that, whatever name you want to give it, 3D, 4D. I call it densities of consciousness because the consciousness is driving the vehicle.
Okay.
If you are just a third density consciousness, just, like a caveman walking around, and we can look back at cavemen and we can see that they were a lot different than we are now. So clearly, evolution of consciousness, as we have become smarter and more energetically evolved, our bodies have moved with us from the big caveman that walked around, beating on things with a stick, to something smaller and lighter and more nimble and agile. And that's going to continue. Our bodies are going to continue to become lighter, not necessarily shorter, but thinner and more nimble and supple. And this will be a result of our energy of consciousness. As that occurs, we're going to need to eat less. We're going to eat less, and we're going to get more energy from our consciousness, to the point where eating is not going to become necessary. And for me, from my perspective, I like to eat. So I don't really like having that discussion, but I understand it. And I'm okay with that when we get there, but I'm not there yet.
Right.
So the question of, did all of these races come together and change our DNA and form us and give us this and that? There was some manipulation that occurred. From my perspective, from the way I see it as manipulation that occurred. Understand that when a system of planets is created, the sun is a system consciousness, planets are planetary consciousnesses, and they are playgrounds for ascension, where the creatures begin in first density and move their way up into energetic creations where they no longer need bodies. That is supposed to be an organic process that isn't tampered with. It's supposed to be the energy of the system star determines what's going to happen on the planets. The energy that the planetary sphere allows through its consciousness determines, because Earth, we have this big yellow star, and we have the atmosphere that restricts a lot of the energy that comes through. Now, if that was different, we'd be a completely different species.
Right.
The organic ascension is supposed to be uninterfered with. We're supposed to just evolve from the smallest single density life form into a complex light form that can manipulate its environment, as we do now, and move into energetic consciousness where nothing's required except the light body. And then at a point, you don't even need light bodies. You're in the collective. So are we special? I would say that the thing that sets us apart, just looking out there, is our emotional capacity. We have this incredible range of emotions. We have this ability to love deeply, and it affects us. We can feel it. We say our heart explodes, and the love that we share and that sort of. But at the same time, we can be just these angry, mean people that just without care just hack each other to death. You can look back through our history, we're just blowing each other up and hacking each other up, and this crazy spectrum of total annihilation to total love, and our ability to feel it internally. I think that's really quite unique, because as I look out there, I see a lot of kind of, I don't want to call it benign indifference, but it's kind of what it feels like. There's just this, I'm going to select a mate now, or androgynous. I just, okay, it's time to create a life, and you just do it, There's a lot of that, and this that we have here is kind of unique in our ability to alter our consciousness with drugs, which is, quite a lure. If you aren't careful and you're a young consciousness, this is really fun. The ability to just love so deeply and just fall madly in love, that's really special. That's something that we should feel very happy to have and hold it precious, because it is. And the hatred thing, that, it's like Star Wars, the dark side and the light side, right?
Right.
It's a very good analogy. I kind of went too far with that. I need to stop.
So basically you're saying the reason that we're unique is because of the polarity that we experience. So I just started thinking about other humanoid forms that are on other planets. And so it was just coming to my awareness, I guess, that they live in a higher density where there isn't such polarity. So that, I guess that just brings me back to what you're saying, is that we have this whole range where, you know, we can love so intensely and then hate one another and kill one another, and, you know, all this polarities.
Well, you know, polarity by itself doesn't give us the range of emotions that we have. Polarity gives us the ability to experience both sides of positive and negative. I mean, we can take someone like the reptilians, the Dracos. I would say, excuse me, actually, no, I don't want to say anything about that. I don't want to bring that up in this conversation at all.
Yeah, I was going to say, let's use someone else.
Yeah, well, I was trying to speak toward the limit of emotional capability, but I don't want to do that. But in third density, we are kind of unique, and I guess I don't want to say any more than that, other than we need to just enjoy what we have and keep going with that.
Right.
But you are correct. As you get higher in density, the polarities tend to, if you're balanced, okay, if you're balanced, they tend to get more towards the center line of balance, and you can stay on track with that.
Okay.
If you're balanced. But you know, they continue to move out in the fourth density. They continue out like this some, and it's only towards fifth density that they start to come back. I know nobody knows what I'm doing with my hands, but I see it in my head. It's all in the second book. So yeah, I don't know where I was going with that. We'll just keep talking.
Okay, awesome. So back to the whole DNA conversation. Interesting. So, you know, everybody on this ascension path, we've all heard about, you know, let's activate the DNA. You got to activate the DNA. So what does that look like to you? Like, I mean, I've had the experience of it, but I don't know technically or scientifically what's actually happening.
Well, as I said before, it's all about the energy in your consciousness. You want to activate your DNA from my standpoint, my perspective. You have to be in an intentional mind state of acceptance, of knowing. So maybe you're at the beach and the sun is shining and you just stand there with your arms outstretched and you're just soaking in the sun, and you're like, I want it all. I want the change. I want the upgrade. I want the energy. I want the codes. And who knows what's going to happen when you do that.
Yes.
It's all going to be dependent upon the individual, whether you get blasted with a big download packet of information, or, you know, something shifts immediately within you. It's just waiting for you to be there for that block to release. And I think for a lot of people, they'll be guided where they need to be, whether it's just in your bedroom meditating, if that's good enough for you, or you need to be in Sarasota, Florida on the beach, or, you know, you need to be in Mount Shasta in a pyramid. You know, there's no telling. But for me, I would say what we did in that pyramid in Mount Shasta, that was a huge burst. And at one point, I just felt it. I don't know that it was any one of us. I think it was us as the Trinity pulling that in together. And I just felt it come down and just like reverberate out. And that's when, as I was giving that discussion or session or whatever I was saying in that thing that I don't remember, that's when I saw all of the different energy beings show up. Yes. Is after that pulse happened, and it was like it blew the barriers down or something. I don't know. So I think DNA activation is intentional and it's personal. And I think everybody should concentrate on it. And if they hear a voice in their head that says you need to go to Mount Shasta, they need to listen to it, because, you know, or wherever they need to go. They need to listen to it because it's telling them what they need to do next. Right. And that's important. So, meditation is the very first thing that everybody's going to tell you, because this is where you get into the focused mind state of nothing, no distractions, no external distractions of this world, which there are many. And you're focused on your own consciousness and pulling energy into your array.
Right,
and
right.
magic things happen after that.
Right. And I think not only the meditation, but also being with others, that also when you're exchanging codes with people, I think that can be a huge DNA activation as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, you're a prime example. When we came together, Aaron's not with us, but when the three of us came together, big things happen.
Yes, yes.
Which
Absolutely.
is why we're having these conversations now, and to see, to continue that process and to continue to make things happen.
Right, right. So how do sacred geometries fit into this whole process?
In what context?
So I was kind of thinking about myself, and so when I do light language, I can feel, I don't want to say that I activate someone's DNA, but I can definitely feel myself. I can feel when another aspect of them is ready to come through, which I believe activates some type of DNA. And so as I'm speaking, I have the sense that there are geometries that are being transmitted. And so I'm feeling that there's a correlation between the geometries and the DNA activation, and how the geometries work with the body.
Okay, so when we talk about geometry, what we're talking about is we're talking about points with intersecting lines. So basically, if we were to overlay that onto the earth, we'd be talking about grid lines and ley lines, grid points and ley lines, right? So there'd be grid points all over the planet, and then there's ley lines in between them. You can break this down into quantum mechanics, and you will find that this is the constituents of the universe is nothing but points, intersecting lines, holding things together with energy being bound together. Whatever geometries because the discussion of geometries could just go from, a boson to the universe, and we'd never be done.
Right.
Dodecahedron, icosahedron. We're talking about these in the second book when we talk about the ley lines of the planets and all. And all the way down to the smallest atom. I have had the experience, and I'm sure others have too, where they're doing some sort of energy work somewhere, and suddenly they see all of these geometric designs in their head. They just start showing up, and it's like, wow, that's so awesome. I couldn't have, ayahuasca trip wouldn't have done this for me, and I'm not on anything seeing these things. Just flow with it. I wouldn't try to focus too much on what codes or what geometries or what they are. Clearly they're important, and just facilitate them. Whatever they are, whatever it is, it's needed and it's necessary, or you wouldn't be seeing them. Right. And if you're the transmitter, if you're the conduit for this person, just be in awe. And
yeah, it's fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. So yeah, beautiful. So I think this is a good starting place to have this discussion, and I know that we're going to continue having more and more, and exploring some interesting topics. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, this was a lot of fun. I think we need to get this where it's live, where we can have questions come along the bottom. I don't know how to do that. I'm not real tech savvy because I don't do a lot of this, but
I can do it.
Okay, good. Oh, there you go. Yeah, we'll take it to the next level as it comes along. I'm going to put this out on my channel here shortly after I process it. I save it, I guess, somewhere. But